Well, it's great to have you here with us today. And I think Rockar is a fascinating brand. You've been around for a very long time. And I think you've been helping the car industry recognise some of the opportunities of the direct-to-customer relationship, which has obviously accelerated in recent years. What do you think about the current state of play? How do you think the industry is doing in that direct-to-customer relationship, and what changes have you seen recently?
I think it's fair to say the industry is perhaps stalling on its desire to move to D2C. I think there's a number of factors at play. Obviously, I'm going to talk about tech readiness. Obviously, I'm going to talk about OEM readiness. I'm going to talk about dealer readiness. And I think there are a number of examples where different brands have had quite good approaches to the tech solution, good approaches themselves internally, the way they've structured and prepared themselves, and also where their dealers have got on board. I think what's going on, obviously dealers were feeling very nervous, quite rightly so, to this approach. And as they've seen executions perhaps not working out as planned, that voice has been amplified, putting pressure on a lot of delay or scrap altogether their move to D2C. I think we've got a saying internally, success is made on a pile of mistakes, right? So you need to learn, and you won't learn unless you go for it. But of course, these transitions can be very costly if not well thought through and not executed. I think it's easier when you're on the outside and looking in to see what's going wrong. And as I said, I classified those into three areas: that tech readiness, OEM readiness, and dealer readiness. And if I focus on tech readiness, that's probably an area that's really easy to solve. You know, we've seen some real fundamental errors. Things like not having a customer account functionality to enable omni-channel retail, which supports the customer obviously, but it also supports the dealer in terms of being prepared and understanding what the customer is looking for, what stage they're at in the process. And of course, from an OEM perspective, being able to see all the data that's coming back from all the interactions the customer's having, both physically and digitally, assuming that they're using the platform or the technology, should I say, at point of sale in the showrooms, which of course I'm yet to see happening at all. So how could you ever deliver an omni-channel solution without that behind you?
The subtlety of the customer relationship is going to develop in the next few years in digital. How do you sell a product to someone in digital? It's not just about facilitating a transaction. How do you get them to want it in a sea of choice?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually. I think the big challenge you've got, the bits that people really like about going to the dealership, is that personal touch and being dealt with as an individual rather than just another visitor to a point of sale website. And I think, again, I'll reflect back on that data layer, that tracking of the customer behavior. This enables you to build a picture of the consumer about their choices and preferences, from the model, the options, to their funding types, to the car they currently drive, and where they are in their sales process, in the actual funnel. We can track all this data and interaction in that customer account that I talked about earlier on. This enables us to build a picture of the user and start to drive or engage them further with hyper-personalized communication. So each time they visit the platform, we can track their interest, their behavior, the stage they're at, and then we would then deploy the appropriate hyper-personalized communication via an EDM, which would then link them back to the platform every time. And this is a really interesting point. This is a massive sea change for the industry to get their heads around, about the use of data, and I'm going to talk about email specifically here, is you have to keep people engaged, because you're not in the show. You can't keep sort of responding to a question or how you're feeling. You've got to be able to do it digitally. So that means the frequency of communications, assuming you can hyper-personalize these communications, are going to be far greater than you've ever imagined before as a car dealer or as an OEM. where we've grown up in a world where we've told you just follow up the customer 4 times. Well, 4 times and beyond, or they usually give up at 4 times if they do get that far indeed. But typically somebody who's hyper engaged, they will get 9 communication pieces over a 2-week window. But actually it never stops. It just the cadence changes depending on the behavior and where they are in the sales funnel. So again, looking to the data that we have, we've seen customers that may have started their journey 3-4 years ago checking out now, but they've had multiple communications, but they've all been hyper personalized. They've been nuanced to the stage that they're at and being very relevant, which makes you feel like you've been treated like an individual and giving you a better experience, and not necessarily selling you the dream of the new car, but empowering you to be able to answer all the questions that you've got.
Yeah, and again, you touched on another interesting point there, which is the joy of car buying. I come from a media background, big brand in the UK, Rockar, and we used to be very truthful about the quality of the car, but we would always photograph it and present it in a way that made it look great, because people are thinking, I'm getting a new car. It's a fun process to go through. I was listening to Jose Munoz, who's the president of Hyundai globally, one of our clients at Sophos 3, and they've been doing some proofs of concept with Amazon in the US. And the thing he really liked about it was a 3-hour process in a dealership to transact that turned into a 15-minute process on Amazon. And I can really see where he's coming from with that. But at the same time, are you losing some of the pleasure of the car buying process, which helps you make a decision?
I mean, let's not forget, Amazon is hugely successful at what it does. And I don't think Amazon really is there to try and sell you the brand or the dream. Is to facilitate a convenient way of getting the product you already want. So that 15 minutes is the very end of, as I've just described, a long sales process for a lot of customers that is far from linear. We see them come in and out looking at different products and revaluing their cars, etc., all the way through. So what we see at the moment in dealerships, for example, is customers doing all their digital research as far as they can, and the last step is to go to the dealership, and really you should be pretty much closing everybody that walks through the door. And that's a bit like the point that you make there with Amazon. The customer's already gone through all their research phase. They just want it as quickly as possible, and Amazon's going to be able to facilitate that from a checkout. But if you just wholly relied on that and you closed all your dealerships and you didn't have all your lovely point of sale websites, Amazon wouldn't have anything to check you out on.
The connection between digital and love, or of brand desire, is still being established. Digital is still seen as a place to get information and transact, not a place to experience. Is that something you guys get involved in? And what is your approach to communicating the brand experience?
Yeah, I think here again lies some of the problem, Patrick. I think e-commerce or digital is viewed as a channel, as a separate channel. It's not. It needs to be interwoven with BAU. So digital can support the experience. So rather than digital's over here and it's just cold, it's information and it enables you to check out, how can it enhance the experience? And way back at the start of our conversation, I think we talked about some of the lessons learned with some of the earlier D2C implementations, where they've not provided the technology, the platform that the customer is using at home in the stores. So had they done that, that would save the customers having to go over what they're looking for, or spend hours reconfiguring a car with a car salesperson, etc. So it just dumbs down that experience, because I've gone through this once already. But so that's a good example where the technology, the digital technology, can support the interaction. It makes it much easier for the car salesperson, who'd be able to see what Patrick's been looking at, what stage he's at, what part exchange you've got, so you don't have to bore them to death with lots of questions, make it all about the transaction in the showroom, turn it into a brand experience so that the salesperson spend more time getting the prospective customer excited about the brand and the product. So the technology can do all of this. So stop viewing it as a new sales channel that sits over here to the right and it's under the auspices of the IT team. It's not, it needs to be part of ops and business as usual.
So some of the brands that we talk to sort of want to look outside the car industry for digital expertise, which is understandable, given how much is invested by the mega brands in the customer experience and customer relationship. Is that something that you've done? Have you looked outside the car industry to find examples of best practice?
I think we do spend a lot of time going around other tech companies, going to conferences and listening to the new technology that's coming. I think what we do in the motor industry is very unique. I'm yet to find another industry or retail industry that buys the product back off a customer to facilitate a transaction, and also would allow that customer to take product away to drive it around the roads of the United Kingdom and then bring it back. So and then of course offer multiple funding types. So if you go onto a jewelry website, you can buy a watch and it's either Klarna or some other form of HP. But when you look at the motor industry, we're offering HP, PCP, BCH, PCH, APP products, and they're all very different. Then you need to be able to advise the customer on those products, treat customers fairly, everything that is caught up in that process. So I think it's extremely complex. So it's very difficult to learn global lessons out of other brands, but I think understanding how technology, as I was talking about earlier on, how it can enhance the experience for the customer is key for us.
So, not news to anyone that EV sales are proving difficult, lots of fleet sales, not enough private sales. What role do you think that digital can play to help answer that challenge?
A different customer experience or a different user journey for EVs, you're differentiating them again, you're making it an outlier. It needs, we need to overcome anxieties, so you need to be treated the same way.
And then finally, if you're measuring brand performance in digital, what's your favorite KPI or measurement for that?
One KPI, oh my goodness, we have literally hundreds of data measurements that we use to optimize performance, but probably if I was going to pick one, I'd say customer account creation. So if a customer is motivated and engaged enough to create an account, so when I say create an account, they've probably seen a number of cars they want to save to a wish list to come back, because that's what they're going to do. Nobody really goes, I'm interested in this car, start an e-commerce journey and buy every time. They're going to come back, as I've already talked about, up to 3 to 4 years to do that. So this customer account is key for everything, and it will drive the marketing methodologies, the hyper-personalization of those communications, and the ongoing engagement of the user. So yeah, customer account creation as a percentage of sessions for me